No, just tell me when I'm online, so you don't say anything. Okay, fine.
So good morning, everyone. Today we have Ivan here at our institute for a GeoAI Talk. He will share with us some insights about AI applied to petrography. It's part of his research. And Ivan holds a bachelor degree in geology from the National University of Colombia. He's currently a master's student at King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals in Saudi Arabia. He worked as a data scientist at Grupo DOT. He contributed to the evaluation of the Colombia Basin exploratory potential, and it's involved in automating petrography projects for mining applications. He's proficient in Python and GIS, and his interests lie in the oil and gas industry, data science, and machine learning. So, welcome, Ivan, and
Thank you for
the stage is yours.
here. I'm really glad to be here at Sao Paulo doing this work. I am really happy because some of the previous professors are really fundamental to my education through his publications. So this talk is about what we can do with all of this booming artificial intelligence in petrography. So basically, we as geologists have a lot of thin sections to analyze, and usually it takes a lot of time to analyze the thin sections. Like for example, in segmentation, you have to do this at least 300 point count, and it takes a lot of time, and usually you don't have enough time to analyze. If you have, for example, I have been involved in some petroleum basin classification, and you have these 50, 100, easily 200 thin sections of a sedimentary column, and it's hard when you have that much amount of thin sections to analyze. So you of course try to use machine learning to help you with that. So this is the name of the talk. I'm Ivan Ferreira. I currently I'm studying in King Fahd University. I will tell you more about it if you're interested. I'm under the direction of Dr. Ardian. He is an assistant professor in KPPM, and he's the leader of the Predict Research Group, which deals with basically how we can use all of these new tools to classify oil and gas reservoirs. So this is a research group in Saudi Arabia. So currently we have several people international from Saudi, from Indonesia, from Spain, and myself from Colombia. And we're currently tackling several problems related to machine learning, carbonate sedimentology, and petroleum geology. So this is some of my networks if you're interested in following me or in searching for more about my work. Basically my research interest is AI applications in petrography, how we can use generative models in geology. Generative models such as, for example, ChatGPT, which is one of the most famous generative models, but I'm more interested in computer vision applications, so we can use generative models for image generation and what we can do with it in geology. And also in economic geology. I really had on my bachelor, I was in the SCG chapters, but I have an interest in how we can use it in economic geology too. So my thesis was how we can use image processing algorithm to support mineral identification and green counting. I will tell you more about it. So basically my university, if anyone is interested, it offers complete scholarships for masters and PhDs, 2 and 4 years, both in engineering, sciences, and also in geosciences. It's a top university in oil and gas. It's the 4th in the world in petroleum engineering, so it's really good in oil and gas, and also in mining and geophysics. It's the 9th in the world in mining and mining engineering. And so it's now to the brief contents of the talk. So first, I will start with what challenges I want to address, and we addressed in the previous 2 years. The methodology or the architectures that we use, what was the literature review of the previous application that we had in geology, and also the data acquisition and preprocessing that we did. And finally, the results, so basically the generated and the segmented images, and some final remarks. So, up to the introduction, what is the background, and what is the main challenges to address? So my background is, my thesis was on applying vision transformers, which is a new architecture that comes from natural language processing that help us in classifying and segmenting and detecting objects in images. So this is the basic architecture of a vision transformer. It's a new approach to computer vision, relatively recent, from 2020, 2021. And I used it for petrographic image classification in my undergrad thesis. I also did some grain counting using deep learning based edge detection, which is the image that you're seeing here. and watershed segmentation, which is the image that you see here. So basically we can use these algorithms, both deep learning and classical, to help us grain counting, for example, in this thin section. And also thin section generation and modeling that we will see in the next slides. So this is one of the main papers that we have published. This is basically one of these images is real and two are fake. These are thin sections. And I will let you think which one is the real one and which ones are the fake. But what we did in this paper was basically proof that we can generate images that have enough quality to deceive geologists, enough quality to generate thin sections. So in this case, the real one is B. A and C are generated by computer, by a generative adversarial model. So, first of all, just to put you into in context, what is basically the main approaches to artificial intelligence? So I will talk about two. We have supervised models. So in supervised models, we have some data X and some label Y. In this case, we want to go from, try to find a function, it can be a neural network, for example, that goes from X to Y. So we give some input X and it predicts some label Y. Some examples in economic geology, or mineral classification, a regression to find the probability of mineral deposit, and semantic segmentation of all minerals in thin section, which is one of the problems that we address. And for example, one problem which will be supervised will be if we want to classify some igneous rock and some sedimentary rocks, and we only have the labels as that set of images. So we will train a model knowing that this image belongs to an igneous rock and this one to a sedimentary rock. So there will be a supervised model when we have the label. On the other side, we have unsupervised models, which are interesting for us because sometimes in geology we don't have the label, and it's hard for us to label that. It usually takes a lot of time. So it's important also to try to explore these unsupervised models and how we can use them. Now we have unlabeled data, for example, just images without the label, and then we try to find some underlying relationship between the structures in the data. Some examples can be clustering of ore minerals. We can use some color clustering that I will show you in the next slides. Principal component analysis of geochemical data, and in this case also I will show you thin section generation. It's also an unsupervised approach. So in this case we have some images without labels and we want to generate some images based on that. So, challenges to address, we have one of them was image restitution for ore minerals. So this problem basically means at least in my university, we have this high-resolution thin section scanner for ore minerals, but usually you don't have that much in every department or in every company. So one of the issues that we had was, okay, we have this high-resolution image. Not all of them are like this. How we can take some low-resolution image and bring them to a high-quality image using machine learning. Also, segmentation of ore minerals. Basically, if you want to count, for example, the pyrite, the chalcopyrite in a thin section, obviously you can do it with programming. So here is one of the challenges. We have an image and we want to scale it using artificial intelligence. So we use some architectures and algorithms that for this problem. In this case, we use ranging from classical, like K-means chloro clustering and deep learning-based agent detection for our segmentation, and we use generative adversarial networks using Stalgan 2. So this algorithm is really interesting because basically it generates synthetic data. And at the start, you will think how we can use that in geology. Like why we want to generate fake data? Well, one thing is that we can also use it to release data that is confidential. One of the applications can be that one. And there are some applications in medical industry and in the banking industry where you cannot release, for example, the medical history of a person or the banking history of a person for security and confidentiality reasons. And they use GANs to train data, to train models on this data, and then they release the synthetic data with the certification, with the clarity that no data point from the original data will be reproduced in the generated ones. We can use that in geology. For example, where I work in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Aramco is really secretive. The company is really confidential with their data, information. So one of the things that we want to try in the future is to see if we can release some of the vast amount of data that they have, but using this synthetic approach. We use this architecture called Stallion 2. I will tell you more why we choose this particular architecture. We tried several GANs, and we choose this one because it lets us do more things than just generate images. So just to tell you how a GAN works, so basically you have some real images, and then we have to train a generator with some random input. This will be a vector that will be random, and they will try to generate images that will replicate the ones that are in the real dataset. The thing is that they will improve. These are two neural networks that will generate and discriminate. So basically, it will generate a fake image, and it will tell, this neural network will tell if it is fake or it is genuine, is a real image. In the process, these two neural networks will improve at generating and at discriminating. So one of the examples that analogies that I would like to use is between an art forger and an art critic. So basically, this will be an art critic. So it will tell this painting is genuine, it's real. And this one will be an art forger. It will try to replicate some painting, but not having the real painting. So it will try to generate a fake image. This neural network will become better at generating fake images, and this one will become better at discriminating fake images. Both of them are used. In the case of generation, this one is the one that we will use, but we can also use the discriminator. But because at the end, these two neural networks have to improve in tandem. Because if you only have the discriminator, the critic becomes really good, then the generator cannot improve, and vice versa. So usually you end up with a good generator and a good discriminator for for generating, in this case, any dataset that you want to recreate. And for the segmentation and the image super resolution, we use both CNNs, in this case SoloV2 and detection true. For super resolution, we use vision transformers, VNAR, which is again using CNNs and vision transformers, which are currently the two most used approaches for computer vision. The state of the art in some of these tasks usually involves a combination of these two, a CNN and a vision transformer. So taking the convolutions and taking the attention, and they combine it, and then the state of the art currently is a combination of these two approaches. So, previous applications in geology. One interesting application is from Dr. Jose Nizari. He tried to cluster, again, using clustering, alterations in minerals, which is an interesting approach because when you have a thin section, usually the minerals are not perfect. They are usually altered, broken, fractured, so you have to take that into account, and he did it with clustering in this case. So he published this work of trying to cluster in altered minerals, and he also released the dataset. So it's really nice, and if you want to try, just you search for Jose Nizari. I think he's in Canada now, and he has some really nice work in this clustering for altered minerals in thin sections. For super resolution, we have several works, especially involving micro-CT images. So you have this problem in micro-CT images that usually the more time that you spend into the capturing the image, more time you have, more quality you have. So the more time that you spend, more quality you have. In this case, these guys try to take a lower resolution image and then upscale it using artificial intelligence. So in case the resolution of the micro-CT image using artificial intelligence was one of the goals of these guys. And this is some of the works. This is a problem that has been approached by many people, not only this one. Also at Resonance last year, trying to apply some artificial intelligence to enhance the resolution of micro-CT images and also of thin section images. Because one problem with geology is, for example, in palynology, I met a professor once that she has this vast amount of polynomorphs, ranging from I think 2005, early 2000s, up until now. There is an issue. She didn't always have the super microscope that she has now. So most of the data that she has been captured with an old microscope. So of course, she can go back to the old samples if they exist and retake it with a new microscope. But there's a problem. One, probably they are lost already because it's 2 decades before. And also, it will take time. She will have to again do all of the scanning procedure, even prepare or re-prepare the samples. So she has this data set that has a variety of quality. So one of the problems in geology is to try to bring all of the images, again, training it with an artificial intelligence model to the same quality as the state-of-the-art scanning methodology. And this is one of the problems that we try to approach in this case for our petrography. And finally, this is from Edwin Ko. He did his work working for a mining company in Australia. I like this image because it tells basically the 3 main problems in computer vision that we have. So we have image classification. So basically, in this case, he was trying to process images from, I think, an ore industry, some mineral processing workflow, and they wanted to count pirate and gang. And he approached it with semantic segmentation and also object detection. But here we can see what all of this means, because I tell sometimes image classification, object detection, instance segmentation, and sometimes it is not clear what it means. So for image classification, we bring an image to the model, and the model will predict a label. So in this case, pirate, which is true, because usually as geologists, we only take into account the mineral that is in the center. But you can also see that we have some gang here. So it's not only, the only thing that is in the image is not only pirate, we have more things than pirate. So it's true, but it's not enough for some applications in geology. The next step is object detection. In this case, you will draw a bounding box around the detected minerals. This is more helpful for us, because now we can count how many grains we have, and the sizes, because we can calculate, okay, so this is the detected mineral. We can say, okay, it goes from here to here, and we have the dimensions of the grain. It's even better. But much better for us as geologists is instant segmentation, in which we can delineate the entire mineral, pixel by pixel, and then we can have a much more precise percentage of, for example, what pirate we have and what gang we have in the image. So this one is even more useful for us as geologists. But of course, obtaining the dataset for each of these processes is harder in this case than in this case. Because for labeling the images, in this case, you just capture the image and then you label it. Pirate, gang. So basically you just put one label into it. In this case, for labeling the images, which is an important process in supervised machine learning, you do 2 clicks. Click, click, and click, and you draw a box. It takes more time than just labeling the image as pirate. And this one takes even more time. I think even 100 times more time spent in labeling these kinds of data, which is drawing all the contour of the mineral. This takes a lot of time. And one of the approaches that we took in this case was using an unsupervised methodology for the classification, in this case, of ore minerals, because we didn't have the time to label this image as precise as this. We did it in the future, only for 40 images, when we will try to use, currently we're trying to use some new architecture, which is called self-supervised learning, which tries to learn from their own labels, and so from their own images without labels. It's another approach in machine learning, and we're currently working on it and trying to prove that it works. But for this approach, we didn't have that architecture available, so we use only unsupervised methodologies. So, this is the most important part in machine learning. Dataset, labels, preprocess. This is the most important part. Usually in machine learning, you will spend 80 to 90% of the time that you're working in machine learning curating the data. And it's true. Usually you spend most of the time checking that all of the images have labels, checking that all of the images are of the same size, checking that all of the images are in the correct folders, checking the quality of the images, and then doing some data augmentation on the images, and being careful with data augmentation, because I have seen some works that are not polished, but I have seen some works in geology that do some data augmentation that doesn't make sense in geology. For example, in seismic, if you have an anticline and then you flip it, you don't have an anticline anymore. So you have to be careful with data augmentation in geology. Because of course, you have all of these techniques for data augmentation in computer vision, that they work in computer vision, but they don't necessarily work in geology. So you have to be careful with data augmentation in geology. One example is this one. I mean, an anticline, you flip it, it's not an anticline anymore. So you have to be careful with data augmentation. But it's also a processing that you have to do. And if you can do it, it can increase the amount of your data set a lot. So, first of all, we use this high-resolution thin section scanning. So these are about 10,000 pixels, about 40,000 pixels long images of, in this case, two deposits. This one is a porphyry type deposit in Chuquicamata in Chile. And this one is a gold mineralization, it's an epithermal deposit in Ishikari, Japan. So the problem here is, in this part, in the porphyry deposit, is to have the percentages of all of the minerals, in this case. And in this case, to detect the gold. Where is the gold? Because it's here, but like you cannot count it. Like one of the things that people had to do is to count it manually. So to count how much gold is in each thin section. We try to do it without having the need to do it manually. We also use some online databases. So in this case, we use the database by Dr. Alessandro Amomio from the Universidade de Milano. You know this guy, probably, because he's the one that creates alexextrakaisen.it. So that is one of the reference sites for petrography that you have on the web. He's a really nice guy. And the website is really nicely curated, so you can navigate easily. And that is why I use it, because I could scrape it with Python. I could just enter the website and take the images, and then I had it in igneous, metamorphic, sedimentary, then minerals. So it's really easy to scrape. So he has done a really nice job. Also from the University of Macquarie in Australia, we use these images that are really nice because it is a high resolution thin section. So this is an entire thin section. Well, a region of interest in a thin section, but it's really big, really large. And you have both the XPL, the PPL, and all of the angles. So you can do some things with the extinction. And we use that for counting the grains in the thin section. And also, because at the end, when we were compiling the data, we realized we don't have enough sedimentary thin sections for some reason. There is a lot of igneous, a lot of metamorphic, so we have to compensate by using the atlas of the sedimentary rocks under the microscope by Adams, and also some carbonate books that we also use for compensating because there wasn't enough sedimentary rocks for some reason. Probably they were not as photogenic as igneous and metamorphic. But like we had this problem. So in the end, this was for the. So this is funny because at the start we were just trying to build a classifier for image, for igneous, metamorphic, then tell okay it is. What is it? It is volcanic, it is tectonic, then metamorphic, okay, what type of metamorphism it is, sedimentary, okay, it's carbonate, but then we realized we have 10,070 images. This number, when we reach this number, we realized we can train a GAN, because usually GANs require a lot of images to train, and we realized no one has done it before in petrography. What can we do with it? I mean, we have this amount of data set. Okay, we have it classified for 4 classes. It is balanced around 2,500 images for each class. But then we realized, okay, we can do the classification. It has been done in the past by Dr. Rafael Pires de Lima, for example. It has done, and Dr. Edwin Cole also. So it has been done already in geology. We did that, but we also realized, okay, can we build a generator from these sections? So we, again, pre-parsed it, give it all in the same resolution, 512 by 512 pixel. We had to check that we have a diversity of zoom levels. So in this case, we have images that were at 40x, 10x, 4x, so in the photographic microscope. And we obtain a lithologically representative thin section corpus, which is available, of course, upon request, and there is this gigantic data set. So, now for the results. There are 3 parts, the 3 names of the talk: detect, generate, and detect, segment, and generate. So, there is one that it didn't include, which is upsample. So these are the 3 upsampled images. So basically super resolution, the generated images, so the generative adversarial network, and the segmented images, so these CNN approaches for segmenting CNN and classical machine learning approaches for segmenting some images. So, let's start with upsampling. So, first of all, okay, you can take an image in Paint, for example, and you can upsample it, but how you can tell how good the upsampling is? So you need some hard metric to showcase how good the algorithm is performing. So in this case, for upsampling, the standard algorithm is PSNR, which is peak signal to noise ratio. A visual representation of what this actually means is represented here. So basically, if the PSNR, the peak signal to noise ratio, so how much signal and noise is in the image, is 0, basically the reconstruction is terrible. It's just noise. And then, according to the equation, it goes up to infinite if the images are the same. A good values are between 30 and 50 dBs. What does it mean? Usually it's the compression that is achieved by JPEG images contrasted with PNGs, because JPEGs are compressed images. So these values are usually good at preserving the data in the images. So what does it mean visually? So we started, so there are two types of images here. We have the Ishikari deposit, the gold deposit in Japan, and the Chuquicamata deposit in Chile. So this is visually at 2 times upscaling. So basically you upscale the images twice, width and height. These are square images, so we'll with the same dimensions in both width and height. So again, just to showcase 2 times upscaling, this is using machine learning, and then the PSNR that we obtained for the 7.4, in this case for a 2 times upscale. Okay, this looks nice. We say, okay, can we push the algorithm further? So again, the same result for gold deposit, in this case 45.6 PSNR. And the dataset, it was done, it is a little bit unbalanced. We have 1580 from Chuquicamata, the copper deposit, and 390 from Ishikari, the gold deposit. We ended up with this amount of images. We divided into training and validation. Again, for validation, do you know, everyone knows here why we have to divide it into training and validation? Yes? Okay. So we divided into training and validation just to check that the model was doing it right. And this is the result for PSNR for 2 times upscaling, 4 times upscaling, and there are the dimension, 512 to high resolution, 1000 by 24 pixels, 1024 pixels, and 24 pixels, and then all the upscalings that we tried, even 16 times upscaling. This is a really tiny image, as you will see in the next slides. And then some comparison with the results from microSG grayscale images on a 2 times upscaling task from 128 to 256 pixels, which obtained for 45.1, which is not far away from on 2 times. Again, it's not completely similar because in this case we're dealing with higher resolution and an RGB image, and these are grayscale images and a lower resolution, but it is comparable. So we are kind of approaching the same PSNR values that they obtained for microCT images. And now for the visual results. So this is a 4 times upscaling of the images. So before I continue, one of the uses for this, besides restoring images that you have in the past, that you have in a lower quality, is for compression. Because usually in seismic, and even in this case in petrography image, you end up with terabytes of data. Sometimes it's hard to carry around. So one of my colleagues in Colombia, in the National University, they have this, I don't know how many terabytes it has, but it's kind of, even it looks like a PC. It's just a hard drive. And it's crazy how much terabytes of images they have. So one of the uses that is proposed for these super resolution models is for using it to compress. Again, if you can compress this to some size and then upscale it using machine learning and you don't lose much information, you can still use it for the same, you start considering. And again, it also has some implication because it is, I mean, if you have this replicated around the world, it also means less storage, less carbon emissions, so it also has some implications besides just giving you more, a smaller US drive to carry the things around. So one of the uses is also this one. And 8 times of scaling and the corresponding PSNR, and even 16 times. It is not as good reconstruction, but we wanted to push the algorithm as far as we can. And this one is 16 times upscaling. We also check this model not only with PSNR, because again, PSNR is a metric that for geologists, for a geologist, what is PSNR? What do I do with it? So we also check it with a segmentation task. So we also check that we can segment the same amount of pyrite in both the upscaled and the original image. So we check also that. So we have some metric that we can use in geology, that is the percentage of the mineral that is that it corresponds with the same with the original image. So that is another metric that we use for this paper that is in the review currently. And we also we also replicated in igneous petrology. So we also use these igneous petrography images just to check that the model also works in transmitted light. This model used a vision transformer, and we also compared it with CNN-based algorithms just to check that we were getting the best results according to all of the architectures. And also we check it with the traditional ones. So for upscaling, usually you have bicubic, nearest, and bilinear for interpolation, basically for upsampling the image or a signal. These are the results. So this is the model that we find it was the best one. And we also justify that it was probably because vision transformers can retain some long distance relationship between the images that CNNs cannot. Usually that is useful for returning some information in petrographic images. And in this case, these are the results for the classical algorithms and the CNN algorithm, which is even, in this case, is 2018 and this one is 2021, so they are not that far. And even we tested with one revision of this model, which is ERCAN IT, which is from 2022, so it's even newer than SwinAR, and it also had worse results than SwinAR. So we proved that this approach using vision transforming was better for petrography. And what is the main contribution by this? Because it is that all of the current applications in computer vision in geology, they mainly use CNNs. So they are not still applying vision transformer. Basically, this was telling, okay, we can get better results using vision transformers. This is an architecture that we should consider using in the future. And also combination of vision transformers and CNNs. Now this one is really interesting. This is the image generation. So this is all of these images that you see, separating the contents, are generated by computer. In this case, this is a pseudo garnet. It doesn't exist in real life, but it's really sometimes it's really surprising what kind of images you can get. So we use a style GAN. So again, you have the GAN architecture that generates the images, but in this case, we also try to distill the styles in the image. So style can mean a lot of things depending on the image dataset. So, for example, in landscape, the style can be the season. So it can be summer, it can be winter, it can be autumn. And what does it mean, for example, in faces? In faces, it can be the color of the hair, if it has beard or not, if it is a woman, a man. And we wanted to see what this translates in a petrographic data. It also has state-of-the-art results, even as today. StyleGAN's version of StyleGAN, there is StyleGAN 3, that we also tested it and gave worse results than StyleGAN 2. So we stayed with StyleGAN 2. There is also StyleGAN XL and some revision of StyleGAN that are currently the state-of-the-art. So basically, all derived from this StyleGAN original architecture from 2018, and all of the revisions up until last year. And we can have this control of the styles generated. Now, these are one of the first batches of images that we generated. This looked like modern art. This doesn't look like a thin section. But this is the modern learning. Again, this is the art forger trying to make as close as it looks to a Mona Lisa. By this point. It improves, of course, and it improves. So by the end, we got a result that was really close to a real thin section. And we tried to prove it, not only because of course you present this in a publication and they will tell you this is not enough, you cannot justify this looks real, that's not enough. So we used two metrics, a quantitative one and a qualitative one. So the quantitative metric was the Frechet's inception distance score. So this, broadly speaking, basically takes both populations, the real images and the generated images, and then using the last filters, so the last layers of the Inception V3 architecture, which has been proven to have some similar to our visual perception as humans, to extract features in both datasets. So you basically extract the activations that it generates when you pass real images through inception B3, and the activation that you generate when you pass the synthetic images through inception B3. You end with two activations: the activation that the architecture had with the real images and the ones with the generated image. What the Freccian inception distance score means is the distance between these two activations. The lower the distance, the better it is. So a lower fit score is better, means that the copulation from real and synthetic is closer to each other. This translates into this. The fit score that we obtained was 12.5 in this paper. So it's this green line, 12.5. It goes from around 400, 300 fit score, which are the first images, which are basically noise. The noise vector is just going through. And then how it improves. In this case, it's the same image improving across the training. And this is something really curious that we found during this research. Fake images are more real than real images. This seems contradictory, but we found it across all of the population. So this is the qualitative metric that we use. Basically, it was a form that we sent to undergrads, postgrad, professional, researcher, and people in the industry, all related to geosciences. And it was basically a form. You have two images, a real one, a fake one, can be in any location. Basically, tell me which one is real and which one is not. And also, we give an option if you are not able to distinguish between both. So this is what you're seeing in this bar chart. Basically, people that couldn't distinguish, so they weren't able to distinguish which was the real image. People that got it right, so correctly classified the one that was correct. And people that got it wrong, so basically say, this one is the correct image, and it was the fake one. What can you see here? People missed across all population, constantly across all population. This was really hard for us because once you get these results in something, you get, okay, we did something wrong. There is something wrong. And we again replicated within two populations. So this is divided into two populations because we wanted to check that this result was correct. So we replicated with another set of population in another universities. And the explanation that we give for this, and it satisfied the reviewers, was you have some bias during the training of a GAN. So this has been replicated in the past. This has been seen in the past with face generating GANs. So basically, fake faces are more real than real faces when you compare them. Why? Because when you train a GAN, you usually use good images. The images that you see in databases, that you see in books, so really photogenic images. In people, it means you usually have these Caucasian, good-looking images of faces. So when you generate an image, you will generate some people that are appear more trustworthy, more real than some real people. This is the same bias we're seeing in the petrographic side of things. So basically, of course, we used images that were from a book, from a database. Of course, they will look more real than an image taken from a microscope. So this is the bias that we're seeing here, and we explained it, that was the reason. So it was curious that we could generate even more real images than real ones, again with this big asterisk. That was the explanation that we gave. And now onto the segmentation results. So we have this problem. This is done in my university in Colombia a lot because they receive a lot of these sections for our petrography. And one of the problems that they have is quantifying how much of each mineral is in the thin section. So one of the things was, of course, see what we can do with edge detection. We can highlight some of the fractures. So this is a deep learning-based edge detection called HEAD. And we did it for fracture segmentation. It has some applications in metallurgy because you can visualize easier what are the fractures in the rock. And then again, you can use K-means using colors to cluster the minerals. In this case, in this section of the image, you have this percentage of, in this case, translucid because it's a reflected light image. This percentage of bornite, this percentage of, I think it's sphalerite, and this one of pyrite. So you have the percentage of the images right away. And not only that, you can do it for the entire image. So you can classify it again by color. And when you cluster by color, you will immediately know, only in our petrography, because the colors are really defined for this thin section, in this polished thin section. It is not as easy in normal thin sections, sadly. You can get, okay, this is pyrite, this is bornite, these are the translucid minerals, and you can get some percentages right away, which really helps a lot in the mineral paragenesis classification that they did in the lab and the analysis, because of course, once you have it classified, you can, this is the original image, this is the segmented one, so there are only 4 colors in this image. There is probably hundreds of colors here, although we don't see it. Then we can just select the metallic, the ore, which is something interesting because now you can see even further. You can see some relations when you isolate the minerals that are of your interest. For example, if you just want to isolate the pyrite, it's quite easier to check some relations. Or a pyrite and an associated mineral, you can try to check what relations there are, some trends in the veins. And we also did it using machine learning. So in this case, we labeled 3 images. Again, we use transfer learning for using only these few labeled datasets. In this case of pyrite, so we did a segmentation of pyrite. We achieve a good intersection of their union, so basically how close the prediction is to the real label for pyrite, and also for the problem with the Ishikari deposit. We trained on 270 labels, and the objective was, okay, count me how many grains of gold we have around the image, which was also a process that they did in the lab manually. So there was a guy that did this manually, so basically he selected where the grains were, so we automated that. And some final remarks. So this is from the previous 2 years of work. I hope to showcase, if we do some talk, more of the recent ones that we have I'm currently working on that are really interesting. And useful also, because we're trying to use these self-supervised architectures, which allows us to achieve almost supervised level of accuracy without using labels. It's something weird that we're still trying to get our heads around, and how we can prove that we can use it in geology. But so far the results are, we achieved state-of-the-art super resolution algorithms on the geographical datasets, so the super resolution part. We can use these algorithms, K-means and deep learning-based edge detection, to analyze all minerals in thin section. We can generate, we generated first synthetic petrographic dataset that is indistinguishable from a real one. And we also use Solo V2 and Detecton V2 to project detection.
Just a second, because we lost our connection.
Okay, no problem. So this is the final part. So this is again just, I will showcase some of my university if you're interested in seeing the opportunity. But is everything alright with the connection?
Just a second.
Okay. So, I study at KFPM, and I have been working with this professor even before joining KFPM. It's a university in Saudi Arabia. This is a brief overview. Just if you're interested, I can give you the link to the WhatsApp group and we can go in more detail, but I just wanted to tell you about this opportunity because I think it's a really nice opportunity for continuing a postgrad program. So it is in Saudi Arabia. This is the capital, Riyadh. So why study in Saudi Arabia? It's actually a question that you have because it's on the other side of the world. But of course, they are playing there. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you can watch these players now. Ronaldo, Benzema, Neves. And you can get pretty cheap tickets to watch them, which is nice. Saudi Arabia is in the Arabian Gulf, in the Arabian Peninsula. So it's the biggest country in the region, and also one of the most important one geopolitically because of oil, and also because of the size. The university is located in this red marker. It is located close by to several countries, for example, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, and also this micronation of Bahrain. The university is located here between 3 cities, Dammam, Dhahran, and Khobar. It's in the center of both of them. Dammam is the most important city. The international airport is around this point. Hobart is more touristic. It has this long stretch of beach in the city, and Dhahran is Saudi Aramco city. So it's just the Saudi Aramco complex, the housing of the Saudi Aramco employees, and the university, King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, and the housing of the professors and the students of King Fahd. This is the university. This is all the housing of the Saudi Aramco guys, and here is the housing of the professors in the King Fahd, and this is the university. It's really big. It's a really big university, and it has a lot of accommodation space and accommodation space. I'm talking of space to walk and to do exercise, and I will showcase more about it. Saudi Arabia is not only focusing now into oil and gas. It's jumping into the mineral exploration industry. So it recently opened up, like for example, this new, the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, he has this project for basically expanding what Saudi Arabia relies on. They don't want to rely on oil. They want to rely, for example, in mining. They also want to rely on artificial intelligence applications. And they also want to rely on the Saudi Arabian League. They also want to make the Saudi Arabian League, football league, known across the world, and also the golf league, and also some other sports. One of them, and I actually work on this project for my master thesis, is the approach to improve the mining exploration industry and discover more deposits and extract more ore from Saudi Arabia, which has a lot of deposits. For what I have seen, in Saudi Arabia there is a lot of deposits that have been not explored. For example, they do this cap rock analysis of the petroleum system, and they realize, okay, we have some dolomite seed, dolomitization process. We have a Mississippi Valley type deposit, but it's not of interest to us. It's there because they're focusing on the petroleum system, but they mention it in the literature. So they have all of these deposits that are basically unexplored. They just mention it or even are not mention it at all. But they have BMS, skarns, thermal deposit, even porphyry deposit inside of Saudi Arabia. This is all in between this Vision 2030 of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which basically is across all of the branches of the government, both in making government easily accessible by phone and by also improving the women's rights, which is also something that has to improve in Saudi Arabia, and mining industry, and also improving the image of the kingdom, basically trying to remove this image of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as this Islamic country, but also try to approach this level of diversity and of opportunities that can be used for people in Latin America and in other countries to go and work and see that it is a country that can provide both safety, good healthcare, and also economic stability. The university was established in 1963, so not so long ago. It was located at the heart of Dhahran. Why in Dhahran? Because that is the location of, nearby is the Dammam 7, the well that was the well that discovered oil in Saudi Arabia. They call it the well of prosperity. It's close by, so if you want to visit, it's the well that changed the history of the country, because it was the well that struck oil. It has a campus that is really well integrated. It has everything, from housing, a medical center, the research facilities, and it has 3 gyms, and it also has a restaurant and everything. Basically, if you don't want to leave the campus during the masters, you can do it. You can stay in the campus inside of it. Even for government operations, you can go to the mall, and there is a booth of the government that you can use. It is really diverse, multicultural, international. It is a diversity that ranges from Indonesian, Pakistanis, Egyptians, Russians, Europeans, Americans, and hopefully next semester 7 Latin Americans are coming to this university. So we're going to be more Latin Americans, and hopefully by 2024 January, even more Latin Americans will join. So one of my interests, this is my personal interest, is to have more Latin Americans there. Because I arrived in 2022 in August. We were only 2. Myself and an Ecuadorian from engineering. But now people are catching up on this opportunity, and they're applying. So next semester, as I told you, 7, hopefully 2024, 20, 20, 30, as much as we can. Because they are really interested in applying, in students applying from Latin America, because there's a lot of good universities here in South America, in Latin America. For example, Universidad de Sao Paulo. So they're interested in tackling these universities because Sao Paulo is top 100 in the world. So this is really, when they saw this ranking, they will go to Sao Paulo. And also, one of the reasons for applying is this is the 4th university in the world in petroleum engineering. So it's right level to universities in the US. And in mineral and mining engineering, it's the 9th in the world. They don't have mining engineering. I had this question, why are the 9 in my mineral and mining if they don't have mining engineering? And the reason is because this metric also takes into account geophysics and exploration geology. So it bumps up the ranking. But they realized, okay, we're 9 in the world in mineral and mining engineering, and we don't have mining engineering. So they're going to open mining engineering this semester. So in August 2023, the first batch of mining engineering will start studying in KVPM. Next semester, economic geology professors will join. There is also an offer for faculty positions in economic geology. So if anyone knows someone that is interested, there is a faculty offer for economic geology in this university. And also in engineering, especially in chemical engineering, they are really good for the petrochemicals in this case, and across several engineering. So again, we have almost 40,000 students graduated since the inception of the university. There is a good student to faculty ratio. Also, a nice undergraduate to graduate students ratio. Most of the undergraduates are Saudis. There is also some other nationalities because there is exchange students, but most of them are Saudis. And attracts top faculty, both local and international. In my faculty, there is a lot: Indonesians, Italian, Americans, Canadians, Saudis. So there is a lot of diversity in this sense. It's really competitive for high school graduates in KSA. It's really competitive to get into an undergrad there. And there are some programs, again, not only related to oil and gas, but also to all of these new information technologies and business that they want to apply, even quantum computing. So it's really multidisciplinary, and in my case that really helps because I work in AI and geology. So I really use some of the facilities that they have in the AI part of the university, and I can access them easy, which is really nice to have. There are a lot of industrial and academic partnerships. Basically, there is this Dahran Techno Valley, which is basically a cluster of research and development centers for all of the major oil companies that work in Saudi Arabia. So you have the Schlumberger Carbonate Research Center, some research centers that focus on well technologies, engineering companies that also have the research centers there. So there is a lot of research and development being done, not only in the university, but in the Dahran Techno Valley, which is right next to the university. And they have all of these companies working there. There is a lot of collaboration with universities, especially in the US. For example, they have an annual summer camp shared between Stanford and KVPM. This year is in Oman, I think, so in Arabia. But next year will be probably in California, so they switch Stanford, California, and Saudi Arabia. And also the main partnership is with Saudi Aramco. So the university is also under the funding of the Ministry of Energy and in Saudi Aramco. And there's a lot of projects and also students that go from Saudi Aramco and study the master of the PhD in KVPM, because it is really easy for them just to go across the fence to the university. So it's also used by people from Saudi Aramco. So we have several colleges and departments. These are all of the colleges that they are in the university. Of interest for us is the engineering and the petroleum engineering. Okay.
We lost our connection again.
So these are the colleges. If you know anyone that is interested in all in engineering or in chemistry, physics, mathematics, computer science, there is also the opportunity to them, not only to geology and petroleum engineering and geophysics and environmental science, but I will briefly go through the opportunity. So this is the scholarship benefit, so it's complete. It pays you the ticket, going to the university, monthly, a yearly vacation of 2 to 3 months during the summer. And they also pays you a salary, so it's up to 3,900 Brazilian reals for masters and up to 11,700 Brazilian reals for PhDs. So it's really nice. It goes from this to this. This is in dollars. It starts in 530 US dollars and goes to 100 for masters, and also this is the value for PhDs. It depends on publications, if you have an advisor, you have thesis topic, basically your progress. But usually it's really easy to increase the salary once you're there. There is also free housing. It has air conditioning. One of the things in Saudi Arabia is the heat. Usually it's restricted to the summer months, so basically from May to September. But you have air conditioning everywhere, so it will not be an issue. And also you have the summer vacation, which can go from end of May up until the end of August. So you can skip the most hot months in the year, which is what I'm doing right now. You have the air tickets round trip to your country. You have medical and dental care, which are really nice. Subsidized meals is just $1 for the lunch and 50 cents for the breakfast. It also has the opportunity to become a research assistant, master and PhD. There's opportunity to earn even more money, but you have to work in some additional things. It is free study, so there is no tuition. There's funding for participating in conference under certain condition, basically that is related to your thesis, and that you're not taking a vacation to your home country is also a condition. And of course, there is opportunity to work on research projects, an additional benefit. There is a beach and recreational activities, such as gym, the swim and the private beach. So I will go quickly through what it's like to be living at KFUPM. This is the student accommodation for males. It's really nice. It's a really big space that you can do. There is a lot of football fields, tennis courts, so you can do a lot of sports there. And it's even better for females. So if you're any female, the accommodation for females are even better than for males. I don't have picture for the female because it's the other side of the coin, but I do have videos. So if any female is interested in applying, please let me know, because there's 2 girls that are coming from Latin America in August, and they already had all of these questions about what is life in Saudi Arabia, what restrictions there are, what should we do, what should we wear. Both of them, one of them is from Sao Paulo University, they answered these questions before going there, and they have the contacts if you want to solve them. There is a Russian girl and there is also an American girl that did an exchange an exchange semester last semester, so they can answer all of your questions. From the recreational part, there is this KFUPM Boulevard. There is a lot of things to do there. So you can play ping pong, you can play PS5, you can play FIFA, for example. There is a coffee, there is also chess tables, so you can do a lot of things. This is basically like a lounge for students. You can just go there and relax. The restaurant is a buffet, so basically you can take what you want, and then that is your lunch. Breakfast and lunch and dinner, both, all of those 3 are really good, but especially breakfast. Arabian breakfast is really good for some reason. And also dinner, because in dinner you have fast food, so you have shawarma and all of this Arabic food. That is really nice. There's also a student mall that is open 24/7, so you can go during the night. It's open 24/7, and it has a Burger King, it has a McDonald's, it has a Dunkin' Donuts, it has a general store, so you have everything. This is the mall. It's open 24. I'm amazed that it's open 24/7. The general store is open all the time, and there's people always. It's really curious. And it's nice because once you're a university student, sometimes you don't follow the normal schedules of a human being. So you will stay up to 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So sometimes you need an ice cream or something, you go there and you can find it. There is also sport facilities, football, table tennis, badminton, swimming, karate, judo. There is a lot of sports that are supported inside the university and that you can get good at. They like Arabs, Saudis like football a lot. For example, Indonesians, they like badminton, so you can also improve in that makes sense. There is the KVPN beach if you want to have some relaxing space. And also the requirements for the scholarship. Basically now it's just the passport, the transcripts for the master's and bachelor degrees if you have them, the diplomas if you have them. You can do some academic history, so the records of your grades, 2 recommendation letters from academic referees, and you need some TOEFL and IELTS. I have it in Portuguese at the end, so it will be easier for you to know what you need. This is just the detail how to apply. You can check, basically enter this link, and then go through the application detail. I can give you more information if you're interested about this. And then life at the city, Tehran. It's really nice. You have this King Abdulaziz Center for World Culture, they call IFRA, which is a lot of things: museum, theater, library, idea lab, energy exhibit, dining experience, so you have a buffet. And they also give courses in a lot of things, from Arduino, 3D printing, there's even some gymnastics shows that they do a lot. And they also have this wonderful building there that you can go and just walk and see all of the exhibitions that they have, for example, for science and technology. There is also this corniche, they call it in Arab, which is basically the beach. You can go, run, take a bike ride. It's really nice, especially because you're in the Arabian Gulf, so you have these wonderful sunsets. And this is the logo of the university, and this is the project that I'm currently working on, if anyone is interested in knowing more. There is also the CIPR, which is the Center for Integrative Petroleum Research. It's really good, and you will take classes if you are a master or a PhD. You will take classes there and use the labs there. It's right next, connecting with this bridge. And the other side is the faculty of college, the College of Petroleum Engineering and Geosciences, and this is the CIPR. It is full of researchers. Basically, it's a research building. And it has everything for analyzing something for petroleum geology. It's crazy. They have all of these simulators, all of these scanners, so you have everything to do any research that you want in petroleum geology. And now they're opening labs in mining, so they also have some labs that are currently opening up in petrology, geochemistry, and mining. Of course, you can visit some of the places, Riyadh, the capital. You can go, if you are tired of the desert. Saudi Arabia is not only desert, they have some cities that are high above the mountains, and they have this year-round vegetation cover. This is Abha. So there is also possibilities inside Saudi Arabia to get rid of the desert, because I know probably if you're Latin American like me, you will get bored of the desert quite quickly. So there is these possibilities also. Of course, during vacation, it's cheap to go to Istanbul or to Petra, Jordan. It's really easy to book some flights, really cheap, or to Baku in Azerbaijan. If you have some friend that is Muslim, this opportunity is really important for him, because it means he can go anytime he wants to Mecca, which is really important for Muslims, because they have to do this pilgrimage and also these prayers at the holy city of Mecca. So if you know any Muslims, it will be a nice chance for him to have the chance to go for the pilgrimage also. There's also close to Dubai, if you can see the buildings, the Burj Khalifa and the Burj Al Arab. Also cheap flights to El Cairo in Egypt, so just to say that it's not only a story, you have the opportunity once you're there to travel to all of these countries. And again, the information for if you want to join the WhatsApp group on the right, and if you want to apply, there is the link on the left. All of this information is in the WhatsApp group. This is from Brazil, so there is applicants from Brazil currently there. The deadline is 15th of August. For starting, you just need the passport, the diploma, a statement of purpose, which is a say of motivation, the recommendation of the professors, and if you are accepted, you will have to present English exams after you are accepted, so you have some time to apply for the 12. The requirement is 6 for masters and 6.5 for PhD in the IELTS scale. And that's it. Thank you, and if you want to join or have more questions, please let me know. And that's it, the presentation. 1 hour, I think.
Well, thank you very much. It was really nice to know about your research and know about the university and all the opportunities.
Yes, if you have some questions.
We had some viewers online, but does anyone have any question? No.
Iván, una pregunta. ¿Cuánto es el costo de vida para vivir allá en la beca de Sol?
¿Te voy a responder en español? Si prefieres. Antes de que te vayas, podemos tomar una foto. Se fue. Oh, she didn't understand Spanish. Es bastante barato porque dentro de la universidad todo está financiado. Entonces no necesitas pagar transporte porque vives dentro de la universidad. La comida es muy barata. Entonces, ¿eres de Colombia? Usualmente son como 4.500, 5.000 pesos por el almuerzo y como 2.600 pesos por el desayuno. Entonces es muy barato. Usualmente gastas alrededor de 500.000 pesos al mes en comida, café, inventario, cosas de comida, de belleza, de, ¿cómo es el nombre? De aseo personal. Es muy barato. Entonces usualmente todo lo que ganas lo puedes ahorrar, que es algo muy bueno en esa universidad.
¿Y tienen convocatorias para postdocs o solo están
sí,
para másters?
está la oferta para postdocs. La oferta para postdocs es mucho mejor porque ya es una posición faculty, es de ya casi que, sí, profesor casi. Es muy buen salario, es mucho más que el doctorado, es muy bueno. El problema es que es muy competido. Entonces usualmente tienes personas que hicieron el doctorado en Noruega, en Stanford, que llegan a aplicar para el postdoc allá. Pero si se abren oportunidades de postdoc, muy seguramente la voy a compartir por el grupo de Brasil y por el grupo, por todo donde pueda, porque sí me interesaría que llegaran gente de Latinoamérica. Pero sí, es muy buena la oportunidad de postdoc. Y si coronas la oportunidad de postdoc allá, tienes todo para investigar. O sea, tienes financiamiento, tienes salidas de campo, hay químicos y además de un buen salario. Ahorita hay postdocs de todo lado. Hay griegos, hay griego, hay un español, hay una chica de Rusia, hay árabes, saudíes, hay de Yemen, bueno, de Egipto, de Omán, de Yemen, de esos países de la península arábiga y alrededor. Entonces es una comunidad bastante internacional en el sentido de postdoc. Y esa oportunidad es muy buena, o sea, total recomendada, porque trae gente de Europa, por ejemplo, o sea, trae gente de España y gente que ya estaba viviendo en Noruega, la trae por esa oportunidad. Entonces sí es buena oportunidad. Muy probablemente ahora en el futuro, porque ahorita, especialmente ahorita que abren ingeniería de minas, muy probablemente empiezan a necesitar postdocs también en la parte de geología económica. Siguiente semestre va a llegar un profesor de geología económica, entonces muy probablemente cada profesor usualmente tiene como un cupo de estudiantes ya no son estudiantes, de investigadores postdoctorales que pueden traer. Entonces muy probablemente se abran algunos puestos para geología económica una vez se monte esa rama ya en la universidad.
Gracias.
Okay, no more questions?
Pues,
Okay,
una
so
foto.
thank you very much. Yes?
Con esta está bien. I think one is with the presentation and then one with the guys.
I'll take your one. Yes, and
Yeah, if you want a picture.
do you want to come to take a picture? Can I take a picture? What show?